So I'd like to introduce our next speaker. That's Dr. Vermont Dia. Dr. Dia is an assistant professor at the Department of Food Science, the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture. He is advising a food science club student organization and mentoring both undergrad student and grad students research. His own research focuses bioactive peptide, and he's currently teaching food chemistry lab, and I think that's his topic of today's talk. And he's very active in all the matters that's related to undergrad students. Our undergrad students love Vermont. And he didn't mention that he had won numerous teaching and mentoring award in our university. So with that, Vermont, I think we're ready for your sharing of your experience.
Thank you so much, Tony, for that very kind introduction. And thank you also, Dr. Bessler, for a very informative talk about virtual teaching and learning style. Now, when Nuria and Tony asked me to share something to this group for this particular hot topic, I really don't know what I'm going to talk about. But then I think, because I'm not an expert on teaching science, if we can call that, then I decided to share really like my experience when suddenly last spring of 2020, my food chem lecture and lab was moved to online. And then last fall, I conducted a hybrid class in the introduction, in a class called Science of Foods, which is an introduction to food science open to both food science students and any undergraduate student technically in the campus here at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So what I will share are my experiences here. And you will see here that, oops, my slides are not moving. Let me do it here. So you will see here, this is a screenshot of my syllabus showing when my class was cut last spring. So the one on the left side was my syllabus for my food chem lecture. And then the one on the right side is my syllabus for my food chem lab class. So you will see here that during this time, we were on this enzyme topic, and then it was cut midway. And then we had a spring break here. And then the students were told that they will not be able to come back in campus. And then all these classes that are remaining in the lab has to be delivered online. Now, when we met here at March 12th here of last year, I asked my students, do you want to do a synchronous lecture? But then my class is offered or was offered at 8 in the morning. And then, of course, some of them were like in a different time zone. So they were like, no, we want just you record your lecture and then you post it in Canva so that we don't have to wake up at 8 or 7 in the morning. And then for this one, for the lab, I was having difficulty because, as you can see here, like if you are recording all this stuff for the food chem lecture, I realized that when I was recording it, I was the main actor, I was also the director, and then I was also the cameraman. I was alone in the lecture room, and then sometimes it's very difficult when you're doing a lecture for, like, for example, like 20, 25 minutes, and then midway you will be like, oh, I made an error. So I will cut it and then start all over again. And then another thing that I realized is like the timing. I really wanted to follow the schedule in the syllabus. So I needed to transfer all my video recordings as it is in the syllabus. If it's for that particular week, we are going to discuss part of enzyme kinetics. Then I only posted lectures on enzyme kinetics. Although I did most of my recordings in advance, I had to follow what was in the syllabus. And also, no homework due dates were altered, which means that we followed all through the syllabus, because in my food chem lecture, they were assessed based on homeworks and exams. So all the homeworks were submitted as it was planned at the beginning of the semester. And I think what is also important here is a constant reminder. You have to email them, put an announcement in Canvas that your recordings are posted, that they're supposed to watch it in that particular week so that they don't get behind in lecture topics. Now for the food chem lab, this is a little bit different because the recording of the experiments, it's a good thing I have a TA for this class. So the TA helped me prepare all the reagents as well as the food samples, but then performing the experiments themselves is actually a challenge, especially for the techniques. One of the experiments that we recorded, I think, was on vitamin C, and that was a titration procedure. And I have not done any titration experiments probably for like 5 or 6 years. So it was really a little bit difficult for me to do the titration experiment. And then again, this one is also a timing advice that, again, we need to follow the syllabus, a schedule in the syllabus. And then, as if I may go back to my syllabus here, you will see that, oops, in my syllabus here, part of our lab class is devoted to class discussion. So that when that happened, we did a synchronous discussion of the data gathered. I did not give my students the data. They had to collect the data based on the video that I provided them in Canvas. And then the due dates for all lab reports were maintained. So this is one of the experiments that we recorded. So I will play this one. And this is a 6-minute video, but then we compress it to 45 seconds of enzymatic browning. So you will see here the first 2 minutes. This is a test tube that do not contain a substrate for the enzyme polyphenol oxidase. So you will see that on the right is the timer, and then the students have to record the absorbance every 15 seconds. And then the second one is the one that contains a lot of substrate. So you will see here that every 15 seconds, the student has to record the absorbance. And then after they all recorded for that one, I gave them an hour to watch the video. And then what we did to the second hour of the lab is to discuss the data gathered synchronously, which is very important because that way the students learned really how to analyze the data as if we were doing it in person. And then I think, let me pause that one. And I think like when we asked the students about how they evaluated the class, for this particular semester, our university had 2 specific questions regarding on the transition to online and remote teaching. And you can see here that the feedback from the students were mostly positive, especially for the lecture, that they did like that I recorded myself instead of having it synchronously. They did complain that I wasn't able to use a very good writing utensils because I really like to write on my slides when I'm lecturing. They appreciated that the assignments were kept the same and that I did not pile work on us, because sometimes when we think like the students are like home, they have more time, but actually that is not true. And then level of organization was maintained throughout the transition. Now for the laboratory, it went more smoothly than it could have gone. And then the videos that were recorded during discussion over Zoom was very helpful. And then the timely manner of video posting. But then when we asked the student how this face-to-face session transition to online impacted their ability to learn the material, it was actually a mix. Students were complaining that really that the transition somehow distracted them from learning, because some of the students are just more used to on watching and listening to the professor while taking notes, or some of them are having difficulty collaborating with other students. As such, that I think is like also another important thing that we have to acknowledge. And then the second part that I would like to discuss is a hybrid class that I taught last fall, which is an introductory class on science of foods. And this one is actually a hybrid class where we have, I had about 44 students. We met twice a week, and then half came in person, and then the other half is in Zoom. So you will see here that at the very top of the syllabus, there's a section 401 who came in person on Tuesday, and then Thursday online, synchronous. And then they switch on Thursday, which is a section 402. This is very important. You have the Zoom link here. And then this is what our university, that in case unusual circumstances happen, the delivery of the class may actually change. And then, as Laura said, I think we need this one, like the virtual availability. I still call it here office hours, right? So this one is like a virtual availability. Make sure that if you said that you will be in your office hours virtually, that you are actually here, because I was surprised. I thought I won't get any students coming in, but I had students coming in during those virtual hours. So you have to be there. And then also part of our syllabus is this social distancing and COVID-19 procedures, that everyone has to wear a mask, wipe their desk before and after the start of the class. And then I think I was really lucky that I never had to tell students to wear their face mask on. And then, of course, the sitting chart. So this one is, I need to maintain this one all throughout the semester for, I think, for tracing purposes, just in case something happened. And also, as you can see here, this classroom used to accommodate 65 students, but with the social distancing, it was only capable of having 27 students, each one 6 feet apart. And then again, the class delivery is on lecture, and then there are like in-class activity. And you will see here that with the mask on, and then you're lecturing for 75 minutes, it can be somehow a little bit tiring. Quizzes and exam, and then this is very time consuming because everything has to be done for in-class activity individually. So you will see here on my next slide that every single table has its own materials that I had to prepare beforehand. And I think I have like 30 seconds left. For summary, I think we just have to stick to the plan. You have to be flexible and somewhat considerate, time conscious, and then I think this experience is something to remember that we can all share, but I think would rather not have it again. Thank you all.